Welcome to Small Biz Mama, episode 19, how to get new clients during COVID. It's actually really interesting because I didn't realize that this was episode 19 when we figured out that this is what we were going to record. So, episode 19, how to get new clients during COVID-19. Hey, this is how we roll, right? So apparently this is exactly what we're supposed to be talking about right now. All right, so mamas, I know I have a lot of people that are reaching out to me saying, I can't build a business right now. How do you get new clients? There's a lot of people that are just ready to pack up and go home. Okay, and so we got to talk for a second. I think a lot of people are in Eeyore mode right now. And Eeyore mode is when you think, okay, the sky is falling, everything is bad, nothing is going well, it's awful, right? Everything is awful. We got to stop with that nonsense right now. Things are hard, okay? Do not get me wrong. Trust me, I understand that things are hard. But there is still a lot of opportunity out there. There are a lot of people who are working. Their businesses are still going. Now, we may be doing business differently. We might be pivoting, right? I think, those of you that are in bookkeeper training school, you have a really good opportunity to help businesses pivot, right? Businesses that are mailing out invoices, that are manually invoicing. There's a lot of educational opportunities out there for you. Businesses that are doing a lot with paper. I mean, in bookkeeper training school, right, we teach how to do everything paperless. So how can you help your clients do that better? There's a lot of opportunity out there right now to teach, to be an expert in your field, to build trust with people. And that's how you're going to get new clients during COVID. Okay. And we're going to go more into this in a second, but you've got to get out of this mindset that it cannot be done, that there are no more clients. Listen, go back to episode, let's see, I think it's episode 17. No, let's see, episode 16. No. It's funny because, okay, so full transparency here. I have this gigantic document that is basically the show notes for every show we've done so far. And I know it's only this is episode 19, so it's not a lot. So I'm scrolling through this to try to figure out what that episode number is. And it's actually episode 50, How Negative Self-Talk is Killing Your Success. So if you have not listened to episode 15 yet, I want you to stop. I want you to go listen there first, because if you're in the wrong headspace, you cannot do what I'm about to suggest you do. Okay, it's not going to work, because the how you're going to get new clients during COVID is using something called attraction marketing. And if you have all of this negative energy in you, you're not going to attract anything. Okay. At least you're not going to attract anything good. Okay. I know that this can be hard. Okay. And that's why I said, go back and listen to episode 15 first, then come back here. Once you're then come back. Okay. And listen, I'll tell you, okay, so look, I am a very grounded, concrete, show me the facts type of person, right? And those of you who know me, those of you that are in bookkeeper training school, those of you who listen to Small Biz Mama, Small Biz Life, before Small Biz Mama, that's my old podcast, Small Biz Life, that I did with Jeff. I'm a very concrete person, okay? But I also do what works, okay? And I will tell you that the mindset work, I know a lot of you think it's woo-woo. It works. It absolutely works. And so I do things that work. If you are going to do this, okay, if you're having trouble attracting new clients to you, you've got to think about what you're putting out there into the world, okay? Attraction marketing is essentially how I do all of my marketing right now. Okay, this is something that we use in Ingram Digital Media. This is something that I use in my accounting firm. This is how I've grown both of our businesses quickly while being at home, not traveling anymore, and not spending a ton of money on ads and other forms of marketing. Okay. So how does attraction marketing work? Well, it is what it sounds like, right? You are attracting people to you based off what you are putting online. And so, I did some research on this to kind of like, because this is something that I learned to do from Julie Stoyan. She's amazing at this. And it's something that I learned to do, being in her mastermind. But I wanted to I did some research to kind of solidify down like what this really is and what the steps are and why it really works. So, Jeff Bullis is kind of a whiz in the marketing business. He's on everybody's top marketer lists, Forbes and Inc. and all the people. And we'll link you to his post on attraction marketing in the show notes. But I think this is a really, really simple way. And I know for some people, it's like they think this is so hard to do this because it means that you've got to put yourself out there on social. Okay. But I mean, think about where we are right now, right? There are a lot of scams out there, right? People don't know who to trust, especially like think about what's going on in the media right now, right? And what's going on with websites and I don't want to get into the specifics, but honest to God, there are, folks out there going, the sky is blue. No, the sky is green. And you're like, I don't know who to believe because the sky is green sounds pretty compelling, but I'm seeing that the sky is blue. So I don't know. Right. Do you think that sometimes when you're going through the media right now and you don't know who to believe? People are looking for people that they can trust. Okay. So if you want to master attraction marketing to grow your business, you have to become someone that people can trust. So the way that I do this, okay, is I spread knowledge. Okay. I think it's something that I'm really good at. Being a teacher, right? I'm not, so if you're going to do this, don't become one of those people that goes, oh, I'll PM you. Oh, I will, sign up for this thing. What I do, and I'll give you an example of how I do this because I did it yesterday. So I look for opportunities to educate people. And the way I do that is primarily through Facebook. So, most of you know, I'm a bookkeeper, tax consultant, tax preparer, college professor. And I do all the things, right? So, but like doing tax consulting and educating small business owners, like that's really where I like to be online, because what that does, like, I'm not trying to attract clients for me anymore. I'm trying to get leads for my bookkeepers in bookkeeper training school. So I go out into the world, okay, and I look for posts that I can comment on. Yesterday, I was online and there was a post in a pretty big group, and it was somebody asking about S corporations. Now, if you go, all the way back near the beginning of the show, we did an episode on S corporations. And I'd scroll back, but it's way too far and I lose my place. It's like in the first 10 episodes, I think we did an episode on S corporations. If you go to smallbizmama.com, you'll find it. And so she was asking about S corporations, and I'm asking questions like I'm talking to a client. So what about, well, this is what you would have to do, payroll, profits, and, doing all the things, all the stuff I talked about in the podcast episode. And it appears she probably wasn't ready to be. We're having all this conversation. Now, here's the thing. Do not, unless you're looking for one-on-one clients, okay, and you really have the time to invest in building one-on-one relationships, right? I'm trying to kind of show look value. And plus something like this conversation we're having is really good for lots of different folks. So we're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I helped her. I helped her solve her problem. And I told her, go back to your accountant and do this, right? That's where we ended. And she was like, oh my God, thank you so much. That was great. That's so helpful. Awesome. And I said, listen, if you want to know more, we did a whole episode on S corporations, on my website, smallbizmama.com. And I didn't link to the specific episode. I just said, go check out the website. Since I did that, I've gotten 25 friend requests from that group. That was yesterday. Because there's so many people out there who are looking for the short-term win. They're not looking for, let me build relationships, let me be authentic, let me earn your trust, let me spread my knowledge, right? And these are all things that Jeff talks about in his article. They're thinking, I need to close a sale right now, right? That's not how I'm thinking. I'm thinking, I'm building two different networks, right? So one, I'm building hey, look, I'm super knowledgeable about all these money, tax, bookkeeping things, right? So if you want to learn to be a bookkeeper, you want to learn to be a bookkeeper from me, right? And I'm being totally transparent here, right? This is what I'm doing. The second thing is I love helping small business owners, and I want to be that person that they follow so that when they do need a bookkeeper, when they get to that point that, they've taken knowledge they've learned from me and learned from other people I talk about, and they get to that point that they need a bookkeeper, they're going to go, wow, Kristen really knows her stuff. I'm going to hire one of Kristen's bookkeepers, right, from Bookkeeper Training School. So that's kind of where I'm going with this, right? And I'm serving both communities when I do this. So what I do, I spread knowledge, right? Because there are a lot of people I think that are electing to be S corporations when they're not really ready yet. I think that there are accountants out there that are setting those up for people because it's fees for them to set up and it's fees for them to do the tax returns. And so, those aren't growth-minded accountants, and you got to be careful about that. I'm earning trust. I earned trust with a whole bunch of people because there were a whole bunch of people following this thread. They were S corporations, but they didn't really know why. They didn't know what it meant. What does it do? And so I was answering, I was kind of going through explaining all that. And I was authentic, I was being me, hey, this is, these are things to look for. The other thing that Jeff talks about is, be social and be responsive, right? So she was writing back pretty quickly. So I'm I'm going to invest 10 minutes in this and I'll just kind of sit here. And so that's what I did. Okay. Now, so that's like the first piece, right? Is that you're trying to attract people to you. And then what happens when they get there, right? When they're like, okay, cool. Wow. Wow. Okay. So you need to have something, right? So after you've done that piece, you go out and you do the marketing. You have to have something so that when these people click on your profile, right? Because think you're on Facebook, right? They're not going to go to your page. They're going to come to you. Okay. And so you need to give them something that they can see so that they have a next step, right? Now, listen, when you start doing this, you're going to have tons of people who friend you. People are going to want to follow you. So if you do not want to build a big network of friends on Facebook, and I get that there's some people who don't want to do that. I'm cool with that. I'm actually starting to pull back a little bit on that. And that's like a whole nother episode on why that is. But what you can do is you can make parts of your about page public. So for example, like the part that's like about me, here's my page, this is where I currently work, so this is my business, right? You can make that part public. You can make other parts personal, right? And then what you can do is when you're posting, you can make some posts public so that the people who are following you, because typically what happens when people put in a friend request, they start to follow you. Okay, even if you don't accept the friend request, they're probably still following you. So you can put some posts out that are public. You can put some posts out that are just your friends, right? And that's how you can kind of balance stuff out. If you know you're going to be out doing some attraction marketing, and this is something like, so one of the things I tell, my bookkeepers, if you're in bookkeeper training school, and you've done the modules on time management and, the core strategies module, I tell you to build out a budget for how much time you're going to spend in your business. And then the vast majority of your business, about 85 to 90% of your time in your business, is going to be working on clients or marketing. Now, when you don't have clients yet, or you only have a couple clients, then that's going to be marketing. And people always ask me, like, what do you do? What do I do during this time? I do attraction marketing. That's what I'm doing. So what I would do, if if you've got like a block of time, like, hey, I'm going to spend 30 minutes on Facebook. Okay. And I'm going to go into some of the groups that I'm in, and I'm going to, I'm going to comment on things, and they don't all have to be, like that post was perfect for me, right? That was like, somebody's like, Kristen, we're going to throw you a softball. Woo. Okay. And I hit that one. That's not always going to happen. There are days and days and days that go by that nobody's asking tax questions or bookkeeping questions. Okay. And so I comment on stuff. If you see your ideal client out there struggling or putting info out there, comment on that. Ask them questions. Contribute a response if they have a question. It doesn't all have to be exactly what you do. You're trying to build relationships with people. So make sure that when you do that, okay, you set that time, like, I'm going to do some marketing today. Ta-da! Make sure that you have a value post on top of your personal wall that is public before you go do that. Okay. So make sure your profile picture is nice. Okay. A little smile. Make sure that you've got, your setup. And listen, if you're in bookkeeper training school, we walk you through how to do all this stuff, right? I walk you through my personal profile on Facebook. Make sure that your Facebook page is linked in your about section of your profile. So, when people look at you, it says, she works at the name of your company, and the name of your company. If they click on that, it goes to your Facebook page. If you don't know how to do it, Google it. If you're in bookkeeper training school, it's in bookkeeper training school. So make sure that's there, and then make sure that there's a post at the top of your profile that maybe it talks about, if you're writing content for a blog, share a blog post of yours on the page. If you have an offer out there, put your offer. If you have a freebie, something. And I understand people are like, I don't want to use my personal profile that way. It's my personal profile. The problem is, okay, the way Facebook works, when you're out there marketing, and you're attraction marketing, and you're, getting to know people, and you're building trust and all the things, people are going to click on your personal profile. They're not going to click on your page right away, right? I know you can join groups as pages, but nobody wants pages in their groups. You know why? Because they know that the pages are going to market, right? And so, people are very resistant, including me. I'll tell you, I've got a group with over 3,000 people in it. I don't like having pages in my group. I just don't. Because people react differently as their page than they do as themselves. It's bizarre. It really is. So when people, and you can do this, go into a group, right? And just hover your mouse over somebody's name, and you're going to see this box pop up. Okay. And that box, and you can do this for you too. You can hover over your name and a box will pop up, and you'll see what people will see about you. Okay. And so I think that, have a post, like I said, and you don't have to do this, you don't have to do it all the time, but it's something that you should do. If you're going to do a lot of marketing today or tomorrow, put something up, and it doesn't necessarily have to be something directly about you either. It could be a value post that you found online. It could be something about how much time people, if you're a bookkeeper, how much time people are spending on bookkeeping. It could be a lot of different things, but you want something there that's going to be value. Okay. So that when people make that click, they click on your profile, they're going to see this post that provides a lot of value. Okay. So essentially what you're doing with this, okay, is you are funneling people, creating value, earning trust, being authentic, being social and responsive, right? It doesn't all have to be, business all the time. And you're trying to get people over to your personal profile so that they will start to follow you there. And then hopefully, ultimately, you can get people to follow you on your page. If you get friend requests from people and you don't want to accept them, you can message the people back and say, hey, thank you so much. I really appreciate that, but, I'm really trying to keep my friends list to just my friends, but I do post some great content. I'd be happy to have you follow me on my profile, or you can follow me here. And if you want, you can just write that up as a script so that you can copy and paste it, and you can just message people. And that's one way to deal with it. I have people asking me all the time, do I have to friend all these people? You don't have to. It's up to you. I would post some public content, right, occasionally, so that people have something to look at when they see your profile. But no, you don't have to. Okay. It's up to you. Okay. I'm not trying to grow one-on-one clients right now. So I'll tell you, I'm actually pulling back from acquiring friends. And I'm actually kind of shrinking down and going back to, my actual friends. But if you're trying to build one-on-one clients, it is kind of helpful for a little bit. I'll be perfectly honest with you if you want to build relationships with people. But I would be super selective. Okay. one of the reasons I'm pulling back is because I get lots and lots of requests, and they're people that want stuff from me. And so that's why I'm personally pulling back. But I also have my profile set up too that anybody can message me. So if there's somebody that really needs to get in touch with me, they don't have to friend me to do it. Okay. And so that's kind of another way that you can deal with that. Okay. So again, the process of attraction marketing: spread knowledge, earn trust, go out there, be helpful, and then people are going to naturally gravitate towards your personal profile and then hopefully to your pages. Okay. If people, make sure that you've got content that you're putting out on your page on a regular basis. And I say this with it's funny, I say this with my bookkeepers all the time. And it's funny because so many people don't do it. On a regular basis, you need to be telling people you're looking for clients on your personal profile, because your friends and your family are one of your best marketing tools. Okay. And so I tell my bookkeepers all the time, it is the beginning of the month. Okay. Hey guys, I just want to let you know I have got openings for 4 new clients this month. 4 new bookkeeping clients, and put the name of your business, put the link to your page. If you need a bookkeeper, you should contact me today, because you need to keep track of everything for SBA, PPP, all the loan programs. And so you should need to keep your books up to date. Hire a bookkeeper. And you can just type this out, type it out, make sure it looks all good, put in a picture, because picture posts do better. Say, listen, 4 clients, I got room for 4 clients. And hey, you could actually have room for 15 clients. Okay. You might be looking to book out 20 clients. Get small 4. We're going for scarcity. Okay. I've got room for 4 clients. If you need a bookkeeper, someone who needs a bookkeeper, make sure there's a call to action so they know how to get in touch with you. Click on my page. There's a booking link to book a discovery call, or if you have if you've got software so people can book a discovery call with you, put the link to that in the comments. But you need to do this on a regular basis. Let people know that you're looking for clients. Okay. People right, and people who connect with you, right? So think about this. You're building up these followers, right? If nothing else, you're building up followers either on your page or, on your personal profile. People are following you now. At some point, you got to make an offer, right? And I think that that's one of the biggest mistakes that we make as business owners. We don't make an offer. Okay. So you spread your knowledge, you attract people to you. You get them on your email list, you get them on your personal profile, you try to direct them to your page. If you can message them if they try to friend you, if you don't want to friend them back, send them to a venue that you want to send them to, and then make an offer. Okay. Really, really critically important. Okay. If you're in bookkeeper training school, we've got tons and tons of resources for this. If you have questions, make sure that you leave them, you can leave them in the comments on our YouTube channel. If you're watching on YouTube, you can go to smallbizmama.com and leave a comment there. You can reach out to us through our pages. If you go to Small Biz Mama, you can connect with us all over social. But you can do this. You got to get in the regular habit of doing this. I know lots of people who are having the best year they've ever had in their businesses. It's really cool. Actually, I got 2 people in bookkeeper training school who reached out to me last week. One of them said that she just hired her first employee. Like in the middle of COVID, in the middle of a shutdown, she hired her first employee. And then another one said she joined in January, right? So like she joined in January, she's going through bookkeeper training school. She everything starts to shut down. Okay. In the first 6 months of this year, she has started her business. She got it up and running, and she's replaced over half of her full-time income during a pandemic. And she's working a fraction of the hours that she was working before. Don't tell me it can't be done during a pandemic, because we are seeing it every day. All right, don't give up. Keep out there. Let us know how we can help you. If you like the show, leave us a review and share us with your friends. All right, mamas, take care. Stay safe. Love you so much. See you soon.
Thank you for listening to Small Biz Mama with Kristen Ingram. If you'd like to learn how to create more margin in your life, please visit us at smallbizmama.com. That's smallbizmama.com.